Shameless as the Good morning. Good to see everyone. You know, there's something about being a pastor that the Lord gives you a love for the people that you pastor. It's just something different about them than anybody else. It's like, in one sense, it's like your children. I mean, I love everybody's children, but there's something special about mine. You understand? I like all of your grandchildren, but there's something special about mine. And so I love all people in the world, but there's something special about the ones the Lord has given us oversight over. And my desire and determination is to be faithful to the Lord in what He has for us to say and to do for you. Part of my responsibility as a pastor, of course, is to feed the flock of God, to give you clarity and understanding. And one of the ways that we feed is with understanding. And so what we try to do by the help and the grace of God is give us a deeper level of understanding of what God requires of us, what the Bible is talking about. And that's why we use the Bible, of course, as the backdrop. I'm going to give a recap over the last couple of Sundays. It says sometimes the Lord gives me messages, and the messages are supposed to be one. A lot of times I start out, now, well, let's do a series. And that's not the way it starts. It seems like the way the Lord does it is we start out with a message that we think we can get it done within 35, 40 minutes or so. And then it seems like it extends on a little bit longer. And so I have to take it to the next week. So this is what has happened over the last few. And sometimes, of course, the Lord gives you series and whatnot. But this is kind of like the series. We started out before the Lord formed thee. He understood. He knew thee. Who knew you were going to be. He knew the circumstances of your life. He knew the personality. He knew your parents. He knew your siblings. He knew all those things that have something to do with how you turned out to be right now. I'm a product of my parents. I'm a product of my siblings. I'm a product of growing up in a little bitty town and then coming to the big cities. And all of that has formed me into a certain way. And the way I think. And I'm not saying this just as myself. I'm saying it for all of us. All of us have a certain way of thinking. I've said this before. People in California think differently than people in the Midwest. And it's really true. There is a conformity, or there's something. And I was telling people this. I said, when I was in Texas, I was doing business for people in California. Some were relatives of mine, and they were doing real estate transactions and whatnot. And I was telling them, we could do it like this. And they were so much of a stickler on doing it a certain way. And I'm thinking, why are you such a stickler on that? Doing it that way, you don't have to do it like that. And then when I moved to California, I don't think that I would have understood it had I not moved here. Because once you're immersed into the culture, you have a better understanding of how the people are I'm going to use the word conditioned. Okay, because I'm conditioned a certain way too. So I learned those kinds of things. So those things form you. The fact that you were born or raised in California form who you are. It has an impact on your life. And the fact that I was born in Oklahoma has an impact on my life. So anyway, what we said is the Lord formed us in a certain way, and He had a particular reason for forming us the way that He formed us. He wants us to be a vessel that can be used by Him in whatever capacity that He wants to use us. We don't belong to ourselves. When we give our heart to the Lord, then we belong to Him from that point on. And He has the right to use us in any capacity that He wants to. So we started out with, before He formed me, we understood. And we have the idea in our mind that an artist has an understanding of what kind of vessel he's going to make before he starts it. All right. And then we go on to, in the process of doing it, we have the template. We have the template, or the template is Jesus Christ. He's the one that we are to be like. So everything that happens in our lives, all the forming, all of the changes that the Lord brings, all those kinds of things are to make us more like Jesus. All right. And I don't believe any one of us can say, I certainly can't say it for myself. I don't believe any one of us can say, I'm just like Jesus right now, and I don't need any more forming. I don't need any more issues, Lord. I'm good. No one can say that yet, right? We won't be able to say that until we get to heaven. So therefore, the Lord's going to be molding us. He's going to be forming us. He's going to be making us more of what he wants us to be, more into his image. So when something happens and it scrapes us the wrong way, and somebody does something that they're not supposed to do, and we want to rise up on the inside, well, the Lord says, good, that's just what I want you to do. I want you to rise up because I want you to see what you have on hand. I already know what you have on hand. I want you to see it, and I want you to see that that's what I'm working on. So the Lord is working on you. He's taking us through things. He's letting us understand. And then we talked last Sunday about there being some deformity. Do you think that, as the Lord is forming us, and he went to the 18th chapter of Jeremiah, and he says, I want you to look at the potter, and he said, it marred in my hand. And so he was trying to make a certain vessel out of the children of Israel, and then all of a sudden they marred in his hand. And do you know what? We have all done that. I think all of us, I can certainly say it for myself, we have marks, scars, that we haven't done exactly what the Lord wanted us to do in every situation. I'm not talking about us having situations where we just are constantly failing. That's not what I'm talking about. But there are some things that the Lord is trying to mold us into a certain way, and we're just not getting it. We're just not getting it, and we're fighting against the Lord. Have you ever done that? I have. The Lord, surely this is not what you want me to do. No, I don't believe this is what the Lord has for me, and it is what the Lord has. So now what we say when he said when we are deformed, now the way we think sometimes is deformed. The way we think is not the mind of Christ that we have here. It is something that it's a hodgepodge of things and ideas. And we've read some. I've seen so many people nowadays reading things on the internet. They get these hodgepodge of ideas, and now it's not really a reflection of Christ in our lives because we see something different. We do something different. So there's this deformity that we have to that the Lord wants to remake us. You believe that? Yes. All right. Now, here's the fun part. Here's the part none of us like. All right. If you got a nice piece of pottery and you just formed it out of the clay out of it, what has to happen? What's the next stage? It's got to go in the oven. It's got to go in the furnace. It's got to go in the kiln. And what is that? What does that mean? It's going to be heat. And there's something special about it because it literally changes from being clay to ceramic or something that is completely impervious to wind, air, water. But you can't say that about the clay because that's how you got the clay, was to put water in it, right? And so I'm going to read a little bit here today about that part through the furnace. And we're going to give this particular lesson a title. It would be Through the Furnace. Now I want to say something about going through the furnace. You might be in the furnace right now, and maybe you're not. But I want to say, if you're not in the furnace today, you're going to get ready to go into one. There's going to be trials. There's going to be problems. There's going to be tests. There's going to be issues that you're going to have to go through. The Lord is going to take you through. But here's the wonderful part. It's not a permanent state. It's not a permanent situation. It is something that you go through, and once you go through, you come out different on the other side. You don't have to go through that particular trial anymore, right? But so the Lord wants you to understand this: the furnaces that you're going through, the furnaces that all of us have to go through in order to be like Christ and burn away the dross and burn away the problems and the issues that I have and the deformity. The Lord has remade it and all that. When I go through that furnace, and I become a completely different vessel, right? Something that's far more powerful than it was before I went into it. I want to start at Job. That's the man, right? He is the one that we want to talk about because this is what's happening. And I want to show you something here. We'll start at Job, the 1st chapter, and we'll start at the 6th verse.
Job 1 and 6.
Yes.
Now there was a day
when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Now, do you realize that every time we come to church, the devil's going to sit right next to you? He's going to, have you ever been distracted hearing the preacher? Maybe the preacher prattles on. I've been known to do that. And he prattles on, and it is just like, oh, this is not very interesting. Have you ever done that? The devil's speaking to our, have you ever been in a situation where you're in church and you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner where you're going to go afterwards? What do you think brought those kind of thoughts to your mind? The devil brings those kind of thoughts to your mind, right? Because he wants to distract you from what the Lord has to tell you at that particular point. I don't know what you're going through. No one has picked up the phone and said, Brother Darrell, this is what I'm going through, and I need you to preach on that Sunday. I have never had anybody just say that to me in the 30-something years that I've been in the ministry. Well, I want you to preach on this because this is what I'm going through. But let me tell you what has happened on numerous occasions. what has happened on numerous occasions, the Lord has said, this is what I want you to talk about, because there's somebody that's going through it. I don't know who they are. They may not be going through it this Sunday, but next Sunday they're going to be going through it, and they're going to remember the things that the Lord told them, not through me, not me telling you, because I have nothing to give. I have nothing to say. There's nothing of any benefit in my life other than what I have done for the Lord. All right? So it says here, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. So the devil is going to come among us, and he's going to see, when you're praying in your personal devotion, the devil is going to come down there and distract your mind to not pray, or you got more important things to do. The devil comes also. Now, 7th verse, please.
And the Lord said unto Satan,
And the Lord said unto Satan, where are you coming from? And then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. All right. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? There is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. He shuns evil. If there's something evil, he runs away in the opposite direction. He doesn't dibble and dabble with it. I'm going to go to the bar with my friends, but I'm just going to drink some water and some 7-Up ginger ale. Is that okay? Well, it's not a sin, but is it okay to do? No, because especially if you had a drinking problem before, let's stay out of the bars, okay? Let's not even give the appearance of evil, all right? Let's not be in a situation, finding ourselves caught in a situation that we shouldn't be in, that's going to tempt us beyond what our capacity is, all right? So it says here, then Satan. Now, I want to stop here before we get to this particular stage. He says, have I considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. All right, now this is what the Lord's testimony of Job is. The Lord is saying about Job that he's a perfect man. This is a vessel. I know his circumstances. I brought him up in a certain way. I gave him plenty of money. I gave him plenty of business acumen. He understands how to do business. All of these things that God gave him. And so here is a situation here that he says he's a perfect man. Now, if we're talking about the vessels before the Lord formed us, and then we're talking about going to the potters and letting the potter do it, Job was the perfect man, the perfect vessel. Now what the Lord is saying, this is just what I wanted to be. Do you believe that the Lord can say that about me and you? Do you believe that the Lord can say something about us, that we're perfect, and can say to the devil, have you considered my servant? And you fill in the blank, your name. It would be difficult for me to say that I could go through what Job said. I don't know that I could. I mean, I'd like to think that I could, but I don't even want to try. I don't even want you to go, Lord. I don't even want to get that far. So let's just stay right here. I'm okay with being Daryl. Let Job be Job. He's a good testimony to me. He's a good example to me, but I don't have to go there, right? So here it is. But the Lord said that this is a perfect vessel. This is just what I want it to be. Now what I've got to do, I've got to take it through the kiln. I've got to take it through the furnace, and I've got to try it. So what does he say? What does he have to consider my servant Job? I'm getting ready to open the oven doors. I'm getting ready to take him through something that's very difficult. Now, we don't know how long Job went through this trial. Some say about 2 years. Some say up to 42 months. Nobody knows except for Job and the Lord and those that were there in that particular time. There's no way for us to know. But even if it was just for a few days, it would be more than what most of us can handle. If it's just for a week or 2 weeks, and all the things that Job was having to deal with, his family, losing his wealth, losing his family, and then ultimately losing his health, that is a big thing for us to deal with, right? But the Lord allowed him to do it. So he says, this is a perfect man. Now I've got to open up the furnace doors, and I've got to take him through some things, and I want the world to see it. I want the people in 2022 in this little congregation here, and those that are listening online, I want them to see that Job was an example, and Job is still preaching the messages today. Over 2,000, 3,000 years ago, Job is still faithful, a faithful example of what going through suffering is all about. And if Job can do it sometime when I'm going through my little suffering and it's just got a headache or something like that, or whatever it is, or somebody, I done lost some money, made a bad investment. I haven't made too many of them, but a bad investment or something, I'm about to lose money, or I wrote something, whatever it was, lost a $100 bill, those little things that we go, I can remember Job, and Job can go through it. I can go through it by the help and the grace of God. Can't you? And then an encouragement to see this man, and sometimes I want to say to Job, it's okay. Wait till the next chapter. It's going to get a little better. It's going to get worse, but then it's going to get a little better. When we get to the end of the book, it's going to be all right. You're going to be better than what you were before. Can I say that to you today? That you're going to be better than what you were before. Go through the trial. God is allowing you to go through it for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is. I can't tell you what the reason is. I can't tell you that, you would be better off if you didn't have to go through this. Bless your heart. You're going to be better off if you didn't have to go through. No, I can't tell you that. The Lord can tell you that I'm changing you. There's some change. There's some molecular change down in the core of your being as you're going through this furnace. It's a hard place to go through, isn't it? Yes, the Lord. We say that, and the Lord says, I know it's a hard place. I know that there's a furnace there. And so the Lord takes us through it. And so he says here, so the devil says, and then Satan answered the Lord and said, that Job fear thee for naught? Have not thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he has on every side, that thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance has increased in the land? But put forth thou thine hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse thee to thy face. You know that's what the devil, you know what, this is why. You cannot get attached to earthly things. Because, easy come, easy go. I don't know that it was so easy that it came, but what if it goes? What if all that you have go? We have a crash in the stock market, and everything that you've ever built your wealth upon, now all of it is gone. Give it to the Lord, and if it's his, then Lord, you have to take care of me. That's what I've done. And one of the things that I've learned in my little experience, one thing that I have to say, people don't know this. People that know me know this, but money means absolutely nothing to me. Nothing. And what is a means to an end. And I know some people, and I have friends and people, acquaintances, that money is everything, and they're counting every penny. The money that I make, whatever money that is the Lord's money, and it's consecrated to Him, and all of it is consecrated to Him. Every dime I have in the bank, which ain't that much, every dime I have in my pocket, which ain't that much, it belongs to the Lord. If it's taken, then that's your problem, not mine. So, Lord, help me to be the good steward that you would have me to be in doing whatever it is that I need to do with whatever you've given me, because ultimately it's yours. And I've learned that that's the best way to do it. It's safe. It's a safe way for me to look at things, because what happens, you can get all tied up in wanting more and desiring more and reaching more. I told somebody who was watching what I did one day, he said, there's a friend of mine, if you weren't a pastor, you probably could be a millionaire. Well, I'm not interested in being a millionaire. It gives me no interest. Now, if I were to become a millionaire and I could give it all to the work of the Lord, then I would want to be a millionaire. The Lord will give it to you. I've seen that the Lord has taken care of me in every situation that I've ever been in. Every situation. All right. Talking too much about me. Let's go a little further. Let's talk about Job a little bit. Where 10, please.
Has not thou made a
hedge about him
and
about his house. And this, I think, too, Job had the same idea. It's the Lord's money. It belongs to the Lord. Everything that the Lord has given me. So here's Satan's testimony. Has thou not made a hedge about him and all about his house, and about all that he has on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he has, and he will curse thee to his face. You know what most people would do that? Lord, why did you do that? You have CEOs and people jumping off of buildings because they've lost everything. When the depression hit, there were a lot of people that were committing suicide that didn't know how. Who didn't know how to work, didn't know how to handle things. Now that maybe they were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. But one of the benefits of being poor, growing up poor, I think is a great benefit that when you grow up poor, we didn't know we were poor. I mean, until we started looking at what everybody else had, they got more than we do. But there is something that helps you to work and start at the bottom, and you're not afraid. So if you ever get back down to the bottom, you know how to work that. You know how to deal with that, right? And so this is what happened, I believe, with Job. Now, if you'll let me dream about this, this is not what the Bible necessarily said. But let's just say Job started at the very beginning, and everything that he touched turned to gold. The Midas touch. And then all of a sudden, the Lord just blessed him, and the Lord, because he wanted to do what the Lord wanted him to do. You know what? If you give your heart to the Lord and you do what the Lord wants you to do, the Lord will bless your little money. I've seen the Lord take money and expand it, make it stretch so much farther than what I thought it would stretch. The Lord's done that for me on many occasions. This is what the Lord was doing for Job here. And so he says, but there's a hedge about Job. Do you know that the devil cannot get to you unless God gives him permission to do so, or unless you give him permission? All right. So my attitude, the way that I treat other people, the way that I do things is going to give the devil, it keeps that hedge clear. What's the word? What?
Boundary.
Okay, the boundaries are there. The devil can't get beyond those. And I'm not going to go beyond them either. And as long as I'm there safe in the center of God's will, the devil can't touch me unless God says he can. And if he does touch me, and it's not me that's got a bad attitude, or me that has something that belongs to the devil. Let's say this belongs to the devil. Some attitude or some part of me or something in me that belongs to the devil, he has a right to it. He has a right to it, and there's a little break in the hedge, and he can come in and take what is rightfully his, right? But if I don't have anything that belongs, what did the Lord say in one place? He says, the prince of this world cometh, there is nothing in me. He has nothing that he can lay claim to. All right, he can detonate it. That's a good way to put it. Right. All right, read, please.
And the Lord 12, and the Lord said
unto Satan, behold, all that he has is in thy power, only upon himself, put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord.
And there was a day
when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job. Now, you see how the devil does? He's going to put them all, consolidate everything. I'm not going to go and do this one, this one, this one, and this one. I'm going to wait till they all come together and they're in one spot, consolidated. And there came a messenger unto Job and said, the oxen were plowing, the asses were feeding beside them, the Sabaeans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Now, it seems like they were just people. These are just Sabaeans, are just individuals. These are a group of people that just come together. They're thieves, they're marauders, and they're coming together, and it just seems like a natural phenomenon that they come in and they destroy all that, we're going to just take your sheep. We're going to take everything that you got here. Do you know that some of the natural things, just some of the people seem that we naturally come into, do you know that they are influenced by the devil? Because we understand this when we see the behind the scenes, that this is an influence of the enemy of our soul. And so here's the situation here. The Sabaeans fell upon them and they took them away. They have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven, and has burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking. Now, this seems like something, an act of God. There are some things that happen to people that people want to say that this is God. God is doing it, and ain't nothing but the devil disguising himself in those kinds of situations. All right, read. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, thy sons, thy daughters are eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. I don't know that I would have been able to handle that. This is in the course of 10, 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the very most. You're explaining this, and then something comes, and then it's another blow, and it's another blow, and it's another blow. But I want you to understand that this is the furnace that the Lord was getting ready to take, that the Lord was taking Job through. It was a furnace. It was a trial of affliction. There are some things that happen to us that seem like they're just a normal course of life, and it's nothing but the devil. Let me tell you, doesn't matter what comes your way or what situations happen in your life, you resist the devil every time. You know, sometimes, well, Lord, why are these things happening to me? I can't explain why they're happening to you, but what I can explain, that the devil is embedded in it somewhere. And what Lord wants us to do, the Lord wants us to understand that we can resist the devil even in the midst, and watch your attitude. Lord, help us. I have to watch my attitude. Do you suppose that everybody treats me right? Everybody does what I want them to do? No, they don't. But the Lord's not concerned about what people are doing to me. He's concerned about how I'm responding to what people are doing to me.
Yes.
All right. Now, let's see what Job says. Here's his initial response to the furnace. When they opened the door and he saw how hot it was and he was going to have to step inside, what did he say? And then Job arose, rent his mantle, and shaved his head, and fell down upon the ground and worshipped. And he said, naked came I out of my mother's womb. I didn't have nothing to begin with. This is what he said. I didn't have anything to begin with. I didn't have children when I was born. I didn't have any money when I was born. And when I die, I'm not going to have anything either. So what is he saying here? Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. And the Lord gave, and the Lord is taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. In all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. That was before the grace dispensation. And I want us to understand that if Job can do it, you can do it too. No matter what the trial is that you're going through right now, or the trial that you just came out of, or the trial that you're getting ready to go into, I want to let you know something. If Job can go through it and God can give him the power and the grace to go through it, he's going to give you the power and the grace to go through it as well. I want to encourage you that way. It's not for, it may be for an extended period of time. So but it's not forever. I was talking to somebody that's going through a very severe physical trial the other day, and they need special prayer. And we were praying for them, and they called us in the middle of the night, and they were wanting prayer, and we were praying for them for a few hours. And I'm asking the Lord, why do you see fit for this person to suffer like this? I don't understand it. I wish I did. I wish I could give, and oftentimes when people are going through something very difficult and you're a pastor, they want you to give them words of comfort, and sometimes the words are beyond me. All I can do is just let them know I love you, I'm praying for you. I don't have the words, I don't know what to say. The Lord is allowing you to go through these kinds of things, but you're going to get through them. I do know it. They couldn't see the end. They couldn't see the end of the tunnel. It was so dark and I couldn't see it either. But I know the Lord knows the way that I take. So I told him, I said, sometimes we don't have to look to the future. We can look at what God has done for us in the past. Because the future seems so bleak. It doesn't seem like there's going to be any changes in the future. But let me tell you something. What I do know is God is going to take you through this. This has come to pass. It's going to pass. You're going to get through it. Only be encouraged that way. The furnace is not forever.
Yes.
Sometimes what we have to look back is the furnaces that we've gone through before. Yes. How God brought us through those. He's going to bring us through this one.
Yes.
Lord, help us.
Amen.
He didn't curse God nor charge him foolishly.
Yes.
All right. So let's go a little further. I want to drop down to the 23rd verse, 23rd chapter. I'm sorry. Of Job, and I want to start reading the first verse here.
Then Job answered and said, Even today is my complaint bitter. My stroke is heavier than my groaning. It's just too much. It's just, have you ever been in a situation that's just too much? Have you ever felt like, Lord, this is just more than I can bear? Have you ever been there? If you haven't, you're going to come to that point at some point. And I want us to understand that there is something that's working. God is working in our lives. Yes, Lord.
He's trying to get certain things out of our lives. The dross is there. And he's trying to get that dross out of our lives. And he's trying to bring us to a place that we can be used as a vessel for him, because some of us can't be used yet in the capacity that the Lord wants us to be used in. Yes, we could be used of the Lord, but the Lord generally takes us to another level. And then when he takes us to that level, every time that I've seen in my own experience and in the experiences of others that I've seen the Lord take you to another level, he takes you to a little turn. It seems like the oven, the furnace just turned up just a little bit. So this test is a little harder than the one before. All right, Job answered and said, even today is my complaint bitter. My stroke is heavier than my groaning. Oh, that I knew where I might find him. Have you ever felt like the Lord deserted you? You know, Jesus on that cross, what did he say? My God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you forsaken me? If the Lord said that, Jesus said that, and it seemed like God just withdrew himself, withdrew his presence. There may be some times in your experience that it seems like the Lord has withdrawn his presence. He said, oh, that I knew where I could find him, that I might come even to his seat.
I would order
my calls. I'm going to tell you what I would say to him. He's saying, I would order my calls before him. I would fill my mouth with arguments. I would have a debate.
I would argue with the Lord. I'd feel, not argue with him as being angry and upset with him, but Lord, why are you taking me through this? I've done everything that you told me to do. I've been a good man. I've done all these things, and I don't understand why I'm going through this particular trial that I'm going through. I haven't done anything wrong. I remember at one time when my sister was very, very ill. She was dying of cancer, and she was saying, I don't understand why God is taking me through this. And it was a very painful kind of cancer. It was pancreatic cancer. It was very painful for her and whatnot. And she was saying, why? I don't see any benefit into this. I've lived a basically good life. Now, I said to her, I said, you know what, here's the deal. I said, she wasn't one that lived consistently saved. And I said to her, and I don't believe she'd have any issue with me saying this, I said, do you think that you would be living for the Lord right now if you didn't go through this? And she thought for a moment. She didn't just give me a quick answer. She thought for a moment and she said, no, I don't, probably not. I'd probably be out there doing what I wanted to do. I said, well, that's the good part of this bad thing that's happening to you. This bad thing that's happening, that's so painful, this furnace that you're going through. The Lord is preparing you, because they only gave her a few months to live, 6 months to live. And what you're going through, this painful experience, is drawing you close to the Lord. And anything that draws you close to the Lord is good. Understand what I'm saying? It might be a bad thing, but why do bad things happen to good people? It is always to put us in the image of God. Yes. It's not a physical blessing. It is a spiritual one. All right. So what did we say here? And he said, I'd have my arguments. I would know the words which he would answer me and understand what he would say unto me. So in other words, have you had an argument in your mind with somebody? Well, I'm going to say such and such, and they probably are going to come back with this. Have you ever said that? I have. I do it all the time. If I'm going to have a discussion with somebody, I've already got it figured out in my mind of what they're going to say and what I'm going to say, and then they're going to respond. Have you ever done? You do that? Y'all do that too? And it never turns out the way that I think it's going to turn out. They'll throw a curveball here or something. But this is what he's saying to the Lord. He's saying, I would have I'd understand what was going on. Read it, 6th verse. Please.
I would know the words which he would answer me.
I would know the words which he would answer me, and he would understand what he's saying to me. Will he plead against me with his great power? No. But he would put strength in me. And the Lord's going to give you strength to go through whatever you're going through. There the righteous might dispute with him. So should I be delivered forever from my judge. Behold, I go forward, but he is not there. And backwards, I can't perceive him. On the left hand, where he doth work, he's always there. Whenever I do this, the Lord is always there, but I can't perceive him right there now. I cannot behold him. He hideth himself on the right hand, that I cannot see him. But I do know this from the experiences of the past. I don't know what's happening in the present. Don't know what's going to happen in the future. My future is bleak, but from the past, I can understand that he knows the way that I take. And when he has tried me, what did he say? I shall come forth as pure gold. I know how the end is going to be. I don't know what the present is. The present just looks bleak. The future looks bleak. But I do know what the end is going to be. The end is going to be when he has tried me. I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to go through this. I remember an old sister there in Dallas when we were there, and she was on her deathbed. And she was saying, if I'm faithful to suffer here, then I won't have to suffer over there. These were her words exactly. If I'm faithful to suffer here, I won't have to suffer over there. And she said, and I'm going to be faithful. That's how she said it. And I'm going to be faithful. And you know what she was? And that was an inspiration to me. And she lay there probably 90-something pounds. And she was always a little short lady and 90-something pounds probably. I don't think she weighed 100 pounds. But she was a giant for the Lord. She had done some things for the Lord. And the Lord was honored her faithfulness. She went home to be with the Lord shortly thereafter. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. All right. So if you're a Christian, you're going to go through some trials. All right, moving a little further. Let's go to Daniel, the 3rd chapter. I want to read a couple of things about the kiln. It says here, a kiln is firing up. As it is firing up and cooling down, the changes in temperature make some profound changes in the clay. They make profound changes in the clay. The clay goes from the soft, totally fragile substance to one which is rock hard, impervious to water, wind, and time. The change is nearly mystical in its complete metamorphosis and might be deemed so if it were not so common. So there is a couple of things that I learned about this as I was doing a little studying on it. It says the temperature of clay is fired can make a tremendous, the temperature a clay is fired to makes a tremendous difference. Now, I'm reading this because it was really intriguing to me. Clay fired at one temperature may be soft and porous, while that same clay fired at a higher temperature may be hard and impervious. It is also imperative to note that different clays mature at different temperatures depending on their composition. Okay, so you can say this, we're opening the furnace here, and then all of a sudden this little clay vessel, if the Lord wants it to be more strong, then what's going to happen is he's going to put a higher heat to it. And if the Lord wants to use you and you're in this image right now, and this is how he wants you to be in this particular vessel, then he turns up the heat a little bit, and then you go and you come from this porous thing that can't bear very much to something that is powerful and strong. That's what the Lord wants from you. All right. Now let's go a little further here. It says, so what happens is also it must go through a fire to be used. It is heated. If it's heated too fast, it can explode. So there's little water molecules that are still trapped. Even if you dry it and make it bone dry, set it out in the sun and dry it, there's little water molecules that are inside of the clay that you have to put it in the oven, and then you turn it up to a certain temperature, and those evaporate. And if you turn it up to the temperature too fast, then what happens? It explodes. It explodes. That water starts to boiling. This brother seemed like he knows something about it. Water starts to boil, and then it explodes the vessel. So it has to be to the point that it turns up to the point that it can evaporate and it can heat up at a certain level. And it's the same thing as cooling down. So when you go into a trial, it starts out slow and then it goes up and then it comes back down. I want us to understand that because I want us to understand what the Lord does for us. And we're moving toward our conclusion. I appreciate your patience. So there is another event that the clay goes through this time as it cools. That is a sudden shrinkage of the crystallolites and the crystallines form of silica. Sorry about that. As it cools past 420 degrees Fahrenheit, so care must be taken to cool the kiln slowly as it moves through this critical stage. Otherwise, the pots can develop cracks. So it's something about the way that it's turned up, and it's something about the way it's cooled down. All right, let's go to Daniel, Daniel 3rd chapter, 16th verse. These are all stories that you've heard before, but I just want to bring them out in a way that the Lord would have us to today. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego
answered and said to the king,
O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Now, you know what? These people are volunteering to go into the furnace because they knew what was going to happen. They knew what was going to happen. If they did not submit and they took a stand, then they knew they were going to go through the furnace, all right? Then Nebuchadnezzar, full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men bound their coats, their hosens, their hats, their other garments, and they were cast in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And you know what? I believe the Lord put those kinds of things in the Bible. I heard somebody say, I've heard some supposedly intelligent person say that there's a reason that
that when the children of Israel went on the Red Sea at that particular time, it was like maybe knee deep or whatever.
Yeah.
Or something. Have you heard those kinds of stories? Well, the miracle would be that the Lord drowned Pharaoh's army in water that was knee deep. So they always want to have some kind of different twist on what the Bible says. The Lord puts this here because the men that threw them in there, oh, it wasn't that hot. No, before they even got in there, they were slain by the flames. Now let's continue.
23. And these
three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished and rose up in haste and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound in the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto him, unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of God. Let me tell you something. You're going through the furnace. I know you'll go through the furnace, but let me tell you, you won't go through there by yourself. God is going to be there with you. He's trying to make you an image just like him. And so here's what Nebuchadnezzar was able to see. He was able to look into the furnace, and he was able to see, I threw 3 men in there, and I threw them bound in there. They had their coats, they had their garments, they had their hats, they were bound. And now all of a sudden what I see is 4 men. How did this happen? Let me tell you, the Lord himself is monitoring the flames. The Lord is monitoring the heat as you're going through this furnace. Let me tell you, the Lord's going to take you through it. Whatever it is that you're going through right now, whatever the difficulties and all the issues and the problems, I want you to be encouraged. Yeah, it's a hard thing right now. I'm going through a really, really hard time, Brother Darrell. I know you are. My heart goes out to you, but let me tell you, the Lord is in there with you. As long as you're standing for the Lord's going to bring you through it. He's going to bring you out of it. And what does he say? And then in the 26th verse, and Nebuchadnezzar came forth. Now he saw the Lord, the reflection of the Lord. Isn't that wonderful? He saw something. You remember what he said at the beginning? He said, well, if you don't bow down and worship this at the time that you hear all this music, he said, well, I'm going to throw you in the fiery furnace. Now, who is that God that's going to be able to deliver you out of my hands? That's what Nebuchadnezzar said, right? Who is that God? He didn't know him. But now, all of a sudden, the Lord, because he went through the furnace, the Lord was able to reflect and see him. He was able to see who God was. People are going to be able to see God in your life. All right, almost done. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth out of the midst of the fire. This is what I want you to say. The Lord's going to, the one that puts you in there, oftentimes is the one that brings you out, right? May the Lord help us. I want to encourage you that way. You're going through a furnace time right now? It's difficult. Oh, Brother Darrell, you just don't know. No, I don't know what you're going through. You don't know what I'm going through either, but I know who's going through it with you. I know who's going through it with me. God is there. He's going to be there for us. I want to encourage you that way. I want to encourage you. Yes, I know you're going through the furnace. I know it's changing you, and I know it's making you a better vessel for the Lord. It's okay. The Lord's going to take you through it. It's not like this forever. It won't be like this forever. The Lord's going to see at the end, there's going to be an end to this thing, and it's going to come soon. It's going to come right when it's necessary for it to come through. May the Lord help us. And then there's sometime that cooling down period. We can't cool it down too fast, because if we cool it down too fast, it'll break. So, well, Lord, get me out of this trial. But let me tell you what I've learned over the course of my life as a Christian. What I've learned is when the Lord shows me something, I ain't going to do it tomorrow. Now, I have an issue sometimes with procrastination. Well, I need to do that. I'll put it off till tomorrow. And my wife will remind me that she is not a procrastinator at all. She's going to take care of it. I'll get to it. I'm dealing. But you know, I think what it is. Hold on, y'all. Just let me say this. I think it's as men, we are. I'm concrete, sequential, and if I'm not to that point yet, I need to deal with this. And once I get finished with this, then I can deal with that. But when it comes to doing something for the Lord, and the Lord talks to me about it, I don't put those things off. I take care of those things. Because I've learned, you know what? If you don't do it, he's going to take you through a trial. And I don't want to go through no trial. I don't want to go through none. If I could get to heaven by not going through another trial, I would do it.
Now, I know that's not possible. I don't think it is. But I'll tell you what, let me tell you what I learned as a child. What we learned as a child, if you're obedient to your parents, you get a lot fewer spankings than if a lot fewer, whatever you want to call it, whatever y'all got. I got whippings. I don't know what y'all got. But you get a lot fewer if you're obedient. If they tell you to go clean up your room, and you go clean up your room, then go ask if you can go and play with Junior. Then it's going to be a lot better than if you put it off. So I say the same thing with the Lord. It's a lot better. He said, whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth. So it's going to be a lot better for me if I do what the Lord tells me. I appreciate your patience, your time, and attention. May the Lord help each one of us. This is going to come to pass. Amen. Let us stand and have a number.
147.
There's someone that wants to pray. Come forward to the altar. There will be someone to pray with you.
What was the
Jesus reigns and you will. Well, much I may do in his vineyard. Oh, small in the place that I feel. I am holy and earth and the soul. But Jesus had fire in me. Oh, my God is subject to his purpose. A vessel to honor I'll be. I am holy and earth the soul. What claims my master's dear hand, yes, Lord. He has placed me just where he would have me. And ready for service I stand. I am holy and earth vessel, but Jesus hath pleasure in me. For I gladly submit to his purpose. A vessel to honor I'll be. I am holy and earth vessel. All excellence is of the Lord. For alone I am worthless and empty, and nothing of profit of I am only an vessel, but Jesus hath pleasure in me. For I gladly submit to his purpose. A vessel to honor I'll be. I am only an earthen vessel. The grace is within not mine. For the love and the power and glory belong to the Savior divine. I am only an earthen vessel, but Jesus hath pleasure in me. While I gladly submit to his purpose, a vessel to honor I'll be.
All minds clear on this one.